Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I thought I would give you a full tour of my veggie patch. I've had a lot of new followers recently. Most of you probably haven't seen the whole thing, just in bits and bobs. But today I thought I'd go through everything, what's growing, how I've got it set up, and yeah, what it looks like being midsummer, end of summer in Feb. So February, coming to the end of summer, and we'll show you how my garden currently looks. But if you are new here, my name is Michael and I love all things fruit and veggie gardening. And if you're into that too, you have come to the right place. Now, let's get growing. This here is the entrance to my garden. When we moved in 3 odd years ago, this was all grass. And the first thing I did when we moved in was created the veggie patch. It looks a bit different. I've changed the beds over since I first made it. I'll see if I can find a picture and I will stick it up here somewhere of what it used to look like. But I've got one dog now, but we had 2 dogs at the time. So my first priority was to fence off this area because I knew I wanted fairly low beds, and my dogs had a habit of jumping into the veggie beds, scratching around. I didn't want them, going in there and using it as a toilet or anything like that. So fence it off so that they can't access the garden when I'm not here. I've set it up pretty straightforwardly. Got my path down the center of the garden and then my beds off to each side. I've gone with rectangular beds, not fully rectangular, they're a bit rounded, and I've laid them out in a fairly uniform pattern that just goes with my OCD, making sure everything sort of looks right. So I've got 7 large raised beds and then 2 of the larger circular beds in the back corner there. So it's all about maximizing space in your veggie patch. So I've got this arbor here and one further back. This one has got a tromboncino, which I've been training up. And on the other side, turn you around, I've got here a loofah, which wasn't doing too well, but it's all of a sudden decided to start growing. It's reached the top. It has the little loofahs, but they haven't been pollinated. Oh, one just fell off. There was a few on there, but they never grew into full-size loofahs. And we're coming to fairly late in the season, so I'm not sure that I'm actually going to get any loofahs in there, but I'll leave it for now because that seems to be quite happy. These 2 front beds have been my tomato beds for the season. I've already pulled out 1 round of tomatoes, and if you've been following along for a while, you would know that I've put in some late season tomatoes. This one's actually got some fruit on it at the moment. What one was this one? Tigerella. So that is exciting. And the others are all looking pretty good. That one's got fruit on it as well. So does that one. So all going a-okay. And I've got a few flowers in there. There's some petunias and some cosmos scattered around. And on the other side, I have some more tomatoes. These 2 center beds are a bit of a mixture of things. This is a massive squash plant, which I've just noticed has started to get powdery mildew. So that is no good. I've also just noticed this as well. Can I get it off? Ooh. Look at that bad boy, with a bit of a mixture in there. Huge. And on this side, I also have another squash. And there's another big, massive one in there. I need to check these more often because they're getting huge and growing big before I've even discovered them. On the other side of the squash, I've got my little cornfield, which has all gone to flower. Well, not really flower, it's tasseled. And I've got you can see the corn cobs at the bottom. You see those? And I'm hoping they have all been pollinated. They're not ready to check yet. You know that they're ready to check once the corn cob starts to pull away from the stalk and it sits about a about a 45-degree angle, and that is when they are ready to be picked. So a little while longer yet, but again, they look good. But this season I've had, I don't know what the issue is, but they've not grown full size. They should sort of sit 6-8 feet tall, and they're not even up to my chest, or just up to my chest. So they're only sitting at about 4 or 5 feet. So I don't know what's going on there, but as long as we get some corn cobs from it, that is the main thing. Again, with both of my middle beds, I've tried to maximize space, so I've stuck some frames in the center of the beds so I can add some climbing space for things like cucumber, which I've currently got in the middle. There's a couple of little babies on there, and I've just seen that there is some powdery mildew on the cucumbers, which is a little bit annoying. Always the cucurbit family, your squashes, your cucumbers, your zucchini, they just attract powdery mildew. At the front here, I've got an eggplant, which has got loads of flowers on it. Another one just behind me, and I've just put in another capsicum in the middle here because there was a bit of space. This bed you've probably seen before. It is my zucchini bed. There's a couple there almost ready to be picked. Staked them up so they're climbing. Well, not climbing, I've had to stake them and support them, but they're growing in an upward direction. And I've got some cosmos and zinnias in there. And I've also put an arbor across these two beds as well. Tromboncino and I believe another cucumber on the other side. That's what happens when you don't put a little label as to what you've planted. This one is the last of my rectangular beds, which is going gangbusters at the moment. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know what is what. I know there's a couple of rock melons and a couple of pumpkins in there as well. So they all look pretty happy. But I haven't seen any fruit appearing yet. They could be in there hidden underneath. But do you know why they're going so well? It's because of the irrigation I installed a month or so ago. As soon as you add water, they love it. It's crazy how much of a difference it's made with the installation of my drip irrigation. I've got the two round raised beds here, which did have flowers in them. You can see some old sunflowers, but they're all done for now, so I haven't decided what I'm going to plant in here next. This was a Cape gooseberry that I tried to transplant from somewhere else, but I dare say it has not survived the transplant, so get rid of that one. And then along my fence line are my fruit trees. So I have a number of fruit trees. I've got a fig there. In between the fig and the lime, there is a huge rosemary plant. There is one of my apricots. And at the other far end is another apricot. And next to the apricot there is my Buddha hand lime, which has got a few fruit on it, which is good. It's just a little one. I think it must be a dwarf because it's not grown very big, but still fruiting. And this section of the garden here is my inherited orange tree that came with the house. And I've got some pots on the end of each bed which have got more fruit trees. So this one's got a dwarf pear. There's one fruit on it, a dwarf peach, and then behind that is a variegated kumquat, which is just starting to flower. So hopefully we get a whole bunch of nice kumquats in the cooler months. If you've been following along for a while, you would know that I also have the greenhouse here. In the front, I've got some tomatoes, some oregano, and you remember my very powdery mildew covered cucumber? Had to think about that one in my "Is it too hot to grow things in a greenhouse during summer" video, which it is. I've actually planted some things that do like the hot weather and that are perennial. So I've got in there some chili, some capsicums, and an eggplant. So I'm hoping they settle in nicely and will continue to grow and hopefully, fingers crossed, give me fruit throughout the cooler months. So we'll see how that goes. So that is a very comprehensive tour of my veggie patch. You can see it in the background there. Picked my big old squash. Wonder what I'm going to do with it. If you've got some good squash recipes, let me know in the comments. I do also have, closer to the house, a little courtyard, which you may have seen, where I'm growing a whole bunch of edibles. It's almost like what you would do in a small space garden. So I've got some raised beds, I've got a little seating area. So if you at home only have, a courtyard or a balcony to grow, it's a way I can show that you can grow food even in the smallest space. This is my courtyard garden. I've got 3 different types of raised beds. They're all a form of wicking bed. So I've got the one on the ground, which is from a brand called Water Ups. If you're in Australia, the veggie pod over here, and this little portable one, which should be perfect if you have a tiny little balcony. Because it's small, compact, and on wheels. It's from a company called Backyard Farmer. I've just added some tomatoes and a cucumber in there. Growing tons of tomatoes still. And then I have individual pots with various things growing. Some blueberries, a couple of citrus in here as well, a little dwarf mulberry, and some herbs, a whole bunch of herbs, mints, lemon balm, and all sorts. Thank you for taking part in my garden tour. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.